Life has a way of testing us, sometimes gently, sometimes with a force that shakes us to our core. We all face moments when problems feel bigger than our courage, when challenges seem heavier than our strength. But what if I told you that there is a way to stand unshaken, to find peace in chaos, and to turn obstacles into stepping stones? Today, I want to share with you three timeless pillars of Stoicism, ancient wisdom that has guided humans for centuries, wisdom that does not promise a life without problems, but teaches us how to solve them with grace, power, and dignity. These pillars are not just ideas, they are a map for your mind, a guide for your heart, and a key to unlocking resilience that already lives within you. If you listen carefully and open yourself to these truths, you will leave today not just inspired, but armed with the tools to face life's storms with calm, courage, and clarity. There is a quiet strength in understanding that not everything in life is meant to be controlled. So much of our stress comes from trying to hold the world in our hands as if we could shape every outcome through worry alone. We try to control people's opinions, predict every future step, and prevent every possible mistake. Yet the more tightly we grip what is outside our power, the more exhausted and anxious we become. True peace begins the moment we recognize the simple truth. Some things are ours to guide, and others are ours only to accept. You cannot control how others speak about you, but you can control how you respond. You cannot control every delay, every disappointment, or every unexpected turn, but you can control your attitude when those moments arrive. When you focus your energy on your own thoughts, your own actions, and your own discipline, you begin to reclaim your strength. Your mind becomes clearer. Your decisions become wiser. Instead of reacting emotionally to every circumstance, you learn to pause, breathe, and choose your response carefully. That pause is power. Releasing what you cannot control is not weakness, it is maturity. It takes courage to accept that some outcomes are beyond your influence. It requires humility to admit that life does not revolve around our expectations. But in that acceptance, something beautiful happens. The weight begins to lift. The constant pressure to fix everything fades. You stop fighting invisible battles, and you start investing your energy where it truly matters: your character, your effort, and your growth. When you accept that results are not always in your hands, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering. You give your best effort, and then you allow life to unfold. This does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop trying to control the uncontrollable. There is wisdom in doing your part wholeheartedly and then trusting the process. That trust builds resilience. It teaches you patience. It strengthens your inner foundation so that even when circumstances shift, you remain steady. Think of your life as a circle. Inside the circle are your thoughts, your actions, your discipline, and your choices. Outside the circle are other people's behavior, the past, random events, and many outcomes you cannot predict. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what lies within the circle. When you invest your attention there, you grow stronger every day. When you waste energy on what lies outside it, you slowly drain yourself. The moment you understand this pillar, your problems begin to shrink in size, not because they disappear, but because you stop feeding them your peace. You realize that while you cannot control every storm, you can control how firmly you stand. And that realization changes everything. It allows you to walk through uncertainty with calm confidence, knowing that your power does not depend on external conditions. It lives within you, steady and unshaken. The second pillar reminds us that the mind is not just a part of our life, it is the place where our entire life begins. Every decision, every fear, every hope is first formed in the quiet space of thought. If the mind is unsettled, the world feels heavy. If the mind is disciplined, even difficulty can feel manageable. The truth is simple but profound. You may not always choose what happens around you, but you can choose what happens within you. And that inner choice determines the quality of your days. So often, Problems grow larger not because of their size, but because of the stories we tell ourselves about them. A single setback can become a sentence of failure in our thoughts. A moment of criticism can turn into a belief that we are not enough. When the mind is left unchecked, it can create storms that never existed. But when you learn to observe your thoughts instead of being ruled by them, you begin to gain freedom. You realize that not every thought deserves your attention, and not every emotion demands your action. Mastering the mind does not mean silencing it completely. It means guiding it with wisdom. It means choosing thoughts that strengthen you rather than weaken you. When fear appears, you can acknowledge it without allowing it to dictate your path. When doubt whispers, you can listen without accepting it as truth. The mind becomes powerful when it is trained to seek reason over impulse, clarity over chaos, and patience over panic. There is dignity in self-control. In moments of anger, the disciplined mind pauses instead of exploding. In moments of disappointment, it reflects instead of collapsing. In moments of temptation, it considers consequences instead of surrendering. Each time you choose a thoughtful response over a reactive one, you build inner strength. And strength of mind becomes the foundation for strength in every other area of life. When you control your thinking, you control your perspective, and perspective shapes reality. Two people can experience the same situation and interpret it in completely different ways. One sees defeat, the other sees a lesson. One sees an ending, the other sees a beginning. The difference is not in the event itself, but in the mind that interprets it. This is why Stoicism teaches us that our greatest power lies not in changing circumstances, but in shaping our understanding of them. A trained mind is calm under pressure. It does not rush toward despair when challenges arise. Instead, it searches for solutions. It understands that difficulties are temporary, but wisdom gained from them can last a lifetime. When you strengthen your thoughts, you strengthen your confidence. When you discipline your focus, you sharpen your decisions. And when your mind becomes steady, your life begins to reflect that steadiness. To master the mind is to reclaim your inner authority. It is to decide that no external situation will define your self-worth. It is to stand firm in the belief that you are capable of growth, capable of resilience, and capable of rising again. Once you understand that your thoughts are within your control, you will no longer feel powerless. You will realize that the mind, when guided with intention and courage, can become the greatest ally you will ever have. Obstacles have a way of arriving unannounced. They appear as walls in our path, as heavy burdens on our shoulders, as moments that make us question everything we thought we knew about life and about ourselves. And yet, if we look closely, each obstacle carries a hidden gift. Every difficulty contains a lesson, a chance for growth, and an opportunity to rise higher than we imagined. It is only when we face resistance that we discover the depth of our courage, the strength of our patience, and the resilience of our spirit. When a challenge comes, our first instinct is often to resist it, to wish it away, to hope that it will disappear as quickly as it arrived. But resistance often magnifies the difficulty. Struggle without understanding turns the obstacle into a mountain, unscalable and terrifying. But when we pause to consider that every problem is not just a hindrance, but a teacher, our perspective shifts. The obstacle transforms from an enemy into a guide. We begin to ask not, why me, but what can I learn? This simple changing question can change the course of our lives. Obstacles test more than our skills. They test our character. When a relationship falters, when a dream feels out of reach, when life does not bend to our expectations, we are forced to confront our patience, our humility, and our integrity. These are the qualities that do not develop in ease or comfort. They are forged in the heat of challenge. Each setback becomes a mirror, reflecting not what is wrong in the world, but what is possible within us. And in that reflection, we can choose to rise. There is also a subtle beauty in the way obstacles teach us perseverance. We discover that we are capable of more than we ever believed. We learn to stretch, to adapt, and to bend without breaking. A failure in one moment may guide us to a more meaningful path in the next. What feels like a loss may be the beginning of a deeper understanding of life, of people, and of our own purpose. It is in these moments that we are invited to step into the fullness of who we are. Sometimes the opportunity is not immediately clear. It is hidden beneath frustration, beneath delay, beneath confusion. But the patient heart will uncover it. Each challenge is like a seed planted in the soil of our experience. At first, it may seem small or even uncomfortable, but over time, with care and reflection, it grows into wisdom, strength, and resilience. Those who learn to see beyond the immediate difficulty find themselves not only surviving life's storms, but thriving in ways they could never have imagined. To see obstacles as opportunities is to live life with intention. It is to recognize that hardship is not a punishment, but a path. It is to understand that every difficulty carries within it the power to shape us into stronger, wiser, and more compassionate beings. When you embrace this truth, the world no longer frightens you. Challenges no longer define you. Instead, you define yourself through the courage to face, to learn, and to rise again and again, until even the greatest obstacle becomes a stepping stone to your highest self. There is a powerful difference between reacting and responding, though in the moment it may feel small. Reaction is quick, emotional, and often driven by impulse. It rises suddenly, like a spark in dry grass. Response, however, is thoughtful. It is steady. It pauses before it moves. And in that pause lies dignity. When life challenges you, it will always give you a choice, not always in what happens, but in how you answer it. That answer reveals who you truly are. When someone speaks harshly to you, the immediate reaction may be anger. When plans fail, frustration may rush in. When you feel misunderstood, defensiveness may rise. These feelings are natural, and they do not make you weak. But acting on them without reflection can create consequences that last longer than the moment itself. Words spoken in anger cannot be taken back. Decisions made in emotion can shape years of regret. A reaction may feel powerful in the instant, yet it often weakens your future peace. A response, on the other hand, is intentional. It allows you to breathe before you speak. It gives your mind time to align with your values. When you respond, you are not denying your feelings. You are guiding them. You acknowledge the emotion, but you do not let it control your behavior. This practice transforms relationships because people begin to feel heard rather than attacked. It transforms conflicts because conversations become solutions instead of battles. And most importantly, it transforms you because you begin to act from strength instead of impulse. There is quiet courage in responding instead of reacting. It requires restraint when you feel provoked. It requires patience when you feel rushed. It requires self-respect when you feel disrespected. Yet, each time you choose calm over chaos, you strengthen your character. You prove to yourself that you are not ruled by circumstances. You are guided by principles, and principles are far more stable than emotions. Life will continue to test this skill. There will be moments when silence feels difficult, when stepping back feels unnatural, and when taking a breath feels like a delay. But in those moments, remember that your response is shaping your reputation, your relationships, and your inner peace. The world may judge you by your achievements, but it will experience you through your responses. Your patience, your composure, and your clarity become a reflection of your inner discipline. When you practice responding rather than reacting, you create space for wisdom. In that space, understanding grows, solutions appear, emotions settle. You begin to see situations more clearly without the distortion of immediate intensity. Over time, this habit becomes part of your identity. People will notice that you do not escalate tension, but instead reduce it. They will trust your judgment because you do not speak or act in haste. And so, in every moment of pressure, remember that you hold a powerful choice. You can react and allow the situation to control you, or you can respond and maintain your authority. Your character is not revealed in comfort, but in conflict. It is shaped in the quiet decision to pause, to think, and to act with intention. When you master your response, you master your direction, and in doing so, you step closer to a life guided by strength, clarity, and peace. Discipline is often misunderstood. Some people believe it limits freedom, as though structure and self-control place walls around desire. But in truth, discipline does not reduce your freedom, it expands it. When you lack discipline, you are controlled by impulse, distracted by every passing emotion, and pulled in many directions by temporary feelings. You may think you are free, but you are actually reacting to whatever feels urgent in the moment. Real freedom begins when you are no longer ruled by habits that do not serve you. Discipline gives you the ability to choose long-term strength over short-term comfort. It allows you to wake up when it is difficult, to continue when it is tiring, and to say no when something threatens your growth. Each small act of self-control builds confidence. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your inner trust. And that trust becomes the foundation of true independence. When you know you can rely on yourself, you no longer feel lost in uncertainty. Without discipline, goals remain dreams. With discipline, dreams become plans, and plans become reality. It is discipline that turns intention into action. Many people have ideas, many have talent, and many have hope. But it is consistency that separates achievement from possibility. Discipline does not demand perfection. It asks for commitment. It asks you to show up even on days when motivation is quiet. Motivation may inspire you, but discipline sustains you. Freedom grows when your habits support your purpose. If your actions are aligned with your values, you feel light and steady. But if your actions constantly contradict your goals, you experience inner conflict. That conflict steals peace. Discipline resolves that conflict by aligning behavior with intention. When you live in alignment, you feel harmony within yourself. That harmony is a deeper form of freedom than any external permission could give. There is also freedom in emotional discipline. When you control your reactions, you are no longer trapped by every passing feeling. Emotions are natural and valuable, but they should guide you, not govern you. Discipline allows you to experience emotions without being overwhelmed by them. You can feel anger without becoming destructive. You can feel sadness without losing direction. You can feel excitement without losing balance. This emotional stability creates clarity in decision-making and strength in relationships. Discipline also protects your future self. Each time you choose responsibility today, you create ease for tomorrow. Saving time, managing your energy, and focusing on meaningful work are not restrictions. They are investments. When you practice discipline, you are building a life that is not constantly repairing damage, but steadily growing in stability. That stability brings security, and security allows you to move forward with confidence. In the quiet moments of effort, when no one is watching, discipline becomes your greatest ally. It shapes your character in ways applause never could. It teaches patience, resilience, and determination. Over time, it builds momentum, and momentum creates progress. Progress creates results, and results create opportunity. So understand this clearly. Discipline is not a cage. It is a key. It unlocks potential. It strengthens your choices. It gives structure to your ambitions and power to your purpose. When you master yourself, you gain the freedom to live intentionally, to act courageously, and to move through life with confidence and control. That is the kind of freedom no circumstance can take away. Success is often measured by what can be seen: titles, possessions, recognition, applause. The world moves quickly to count achievements, to compare progress, and to celebrate visible results. Yet there is a deeper form of success that does not depend on public approval. It lives quietly within a person's choices. It is found in honesty when no one is watching, in kindness when it is not rewarded, and in courage when it would be easier to stay silent. This is virtue, and it shapes a life far more profoundly than status ever could. Status can change in an instant. Circumstances shift, opportunities come and go, positions rise and fall, but virtue remains steady because it is not built on external conditions. It is built on character. When you choose integrity, you create a foundation that does not shake under pressure. People may admire your achievements, but they will trust your character. And trust is one of the most valuable qualities a person can earn. Living with virtue means aligning your actions with your values. It means doing what is right even when it is inconvenient. It means treating others with respect, regardless of their position. It means speaking truthfully, acting fairly, and standing firm in principles even when there is no immediate reward. These choices may not always bring attention, but they build self-respect. And self-respect brings a confidence that cannot be manufactured by applause. There will be moments when shortcuts appear tempting. There may be opportunities to gain advantage through dishonesty or compromise. In those moments, virtue becomes the guiding light. Choosing integrity may sometimes feel difficult, especially when others around you take easier paths. But each time you remain true to your principles, you strengthen your inner stability. You prove that your identity is not dependent on external validation. You define yourself through your actions. True success is not measured by how high you climb, but by how firmly you stand. It is not about being seen as important, but about being dependable. When your words match your behavior, people feel safe around you. When your actions reflect honesty and fairness, relationships grow stronger. Virtue builds trust, and trust builds lasting connections. These connections often become the most meaningful achievements of all. There is also peace in living virtuously. When you act with integrity, you do not carry the weight of deception. You do not fear exposure. You do not worry about maintaining a false image. Instead, you rest in the confidence that your intentions are clean and your efforts are sincere. That peace allows you to focus on growth rather than reputation. It frees your energy for purpose rather than performance. In the end, titles may fade and recognition may shift, but character remains. The world may celebrate success in many forms, yet the quiet strength of virtue endures beyond applause. When you choose honesty, kindness, courage, and fairness, you are building a legacy that lasts. Virtue becomes your true achievement because it shapes not only what you accomplish, but who you become. And who you become will always matter more than anything you own or any status you hold. There comes a moment in every life when resistance no longer helps, when wishing things were different only deepens frustration, and when the heart must make a quiet decision to face what is real. Accepting reality does not mean you approve of every circumstance or surrender your dreams. It simply means you stop fighting what already exists and begin working with it. Acceptance is not defeat, it is clarity, and clarity is the beginning of intelligent change. When you refuse to accept reality, you spend your energy in conflict with the present moment. You replay the past, question the outcome, and imagine alternate versions of events. While reflection can be valuable, constant resistance drains strength. Reality does not change because we dislike it. It changes when we respond to it wisely. Acceptance allows you to see the situation exactly as it is, without exaggeration or denial. And once you see clearly, you can act effectively. Improvement begins with honesty. You cannot improve what you refuse to acknowledge. Whether it is a personal mistake, a difficult relationship, a financial challenge, or an unexpected setback, the first step forward is to recognize the truth of where you stand. This recognition is not meant to discourage you. Instead, it becomes your starting point. From this foundation, progress becomes possible. When you accept the present, you stop wasting time wishing for a different past and start shaping a better future. There is strength in saying, "This is where I am, and from here I will grow." That statement carries responsibility and hope at the same time. It acknowledges limitations while embracing potential. Acceptance creates stability, and stability supports action. When your mind is not divided between denial and frustration, it becomes focused. And a focused mind can solve problems with precision rather than panic. Improvement requires patience. It does not happen instantly, and it does not demand perfection. It asks for steady effort. When you accept reality, you can identify the specific areas that need attention. Instead of reacting emotionally, you analyze calmly. Instead of blaming circumstances, you seek solutions. This shift transforms obstacles into projects, challenges into lessons, and weaknesses into opportunities for growth. Sometimes reality is uncomfortable. It may reveal mistakes, losses, or delays. Yet discomfort often signals growth. When you accept difficult truths, you give yourself permission to learn from them. Avoiding reality keeps you stuck. Facing reality moves you forward. Acceptance is the bridge between awareness and improvement. Without that bridge, progress cannot cross from intention into action. By accepting what is, you conserve your energy for what can be. This is strategy, not surrender. Strategy requires understanding the terrain before taking the next step. Life is no different. When you understand your situation fully, you can plan effectively. You can adapt your approach. You can adjust your expectations without lowering your standards. Acceptance gives you flexibility, and flexibility strengthens resilience. In time, you will see that many of your greatest improvements began the moment you stopped resisting reality. Acceptance allowed you to breathe, to think clearly, and to move intentionally. It turned confusion into direction. It transformed pressure into purpose. When you accept the present with courage and commit to improving it with determination, you demonstrate a wisdom that does not depend on circumstances. You show that strength is not about denying reality, but about shaping it with steady hands and a steady heart. Fear is a quiet thief. It creeps into our thoughts, it lingers in the corners of our mind, and it convinces us that safety lies in inaction. Fear tells us to wait, to hesitate, to doubt our own strength. It whispers that stepping forward is dangerous, that speaking up is risky, that dreaming boldly is reckless. And for too many, fear becomes a life sentence, holding them back from the person they were meant to become. But courage is not the absence of fear. It is moving forward despite it. True living begins when purpose outweighs fear, when meaning carries more weight than worry. To live with purpose is to know what you stand for, to have a vision that stirs your soul, and to allow that vision to guide your choices. It is not about grand gestures or public recognition. It is about the quiet, daily commitment to act in alignment with your deepest values. Purpose is a compass that points steadily toward what matters most, even when the path is unclear or the world around you trembles. When you are guided by purpose, fear loses its power because your focus is no longer on what might go wrong, but on what must be done. Living without fear does not mean you will never feel doubt. It does not mean you will never encounter uncertainty or danger. But when purpose leads, fear becomes a signal rather than a barrier. It becomes a teacher, reminding you that growth is taking place, that courage is being exercised, and that life is stretching you beyond comfort. Every time you choose action over hesitation, you strengthen the muscle of bravery, and fear begins to shrink in comparison to your determination. Courage often looks quiet from the outside. It is the person who continues despite failure, who speaks truth when it is unpopular, who takes responsibility for their own growth even when the world has turned away. Purpose and courage are partners. One gives reason, the other gives movement. Without purpose, courage can feel reckless. Without courage, purpose remains a dream. Together, they create momentum, carrying you through challenges that once seemed insurmountable. Living with purpose also brings clarity. It teaches you to distinguish between distractions and opportunities, between fleeting desires and meaningful goals. When you act with intention, fear no longer clouds judgment. You make decisions rooted in values rather than emotion, in vision rather than impulse. Each step forward, guided by purpose, creates confidence. Each challenge faced with courage strengthens your belief in yourself. And over time, this combination builds resilience that cannot be shaken by temporary setbacks. Life is filled with uncertainty. No one is guaranteed smooth days or easy victories. Yet the people who move through life with courage and purpose experience it differently. Obstacles are not roadblocks, but stepping stones. Failures are not judgments, but lessons. Fear does not paralyze them, it sharpens their focus. They are not immune to difficulty, but they are guided by an inner compass that is steadier than any storm outside. When you live with purpose and act with courage, you awaken to the fullness of life. You begin to see that fear is only as strong as the attention you give it, and that every act of bravery, no matter how small, strengthens the heart. You learn that meaning and courage together can carry you farther than luck or circumstance ever could. And in that journey, you discover a profound truth. A life led by purpose, not fear, is a life truly lived.